Hello everybody, my name is Dice&Autism and I tell stories on the internet. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different for our video here. A while ago I made a video opening up some Q&A about the Fighter Saga or Pack of the Father or anything of my content related, because I do get questions about the characters, some of the lore, and the history of the setting with the Fighter Saga, and I love answering them all, truly. It really gives me like a good sensation of the serotonin in my brain, just info dumping this world that I love to tell with you guys so much in these stories. And so for this week's video, I shall be answering them all today and everything. So, let me put on the smart people glasses. All right, I am looking good. So, yeah, let's answer those questions, shall we? 2 questions. 1, is there an official timeline with the Fighter Saga? Second, why does Belvy have those eyes? Answering that first question, yeah, there is a timeline. It's just buried somewhere around somewhere. I did create a timeline for the Fighter Saga when it comes to the events that happens in the story and all, but I believe I made that during my college day, back when I was in round 2 of college, and the time during the round 2 of college was not the best for me mentally. So, yeah, the big depresso and anxiety got to me and all that, so I probably forgot where I put it somewhere, but I will be finding it. I do want to make a website/wiki hub space for all Fighter Saga information when it comes to all the events that happens here, especially with the characters, the lore, the backstory, and of course, a timeline to help out things, because I know there's a lot of moving parts in this story and everything, and doing this for like 5 years and everything, it's gonna be a lot to keep up and everything, so it's something I want to help out with newer viewers who are getting introduced to my stuff and everything. Now, for your second question, why does Belvy have those eyes? So, if you have ever seen videos of Belvy when he takes off his sunglasses, you will notice that he will have those very, very pretty looking eyes and everything, and there is a lore reason for that. That has to do with Belvy and his pack with his patron, Banville. Now, Banville is the devil of the abandoned. Pretty much any person who has been abandoned by their loved ones, peers, or been abandoned by a society, he has felt those pain and everything, and thus created. Banville found Belvy, who was hanging on by an inch of his life thanks to his deadbeat dad being the absolute shit out of him because he thought he was really weak. So, in order to save Belvy from the brink of death, they fused their soul with him and brought him back from the living and everything. But the only thing that cost him was his eyes and everything. So the eyes are considered the window to the soul. So when you look at Belvy, you will see both him and Banville residing in them. Now, I do have a text description of Belvy describing him with both one black eye and one red eye. The black eye being Belvy's natural eye color, the red eye being Banville. Whenever Banville takes over for Belvy, when he ever gets overwhelmed, both of his eyes will go red as a clear indicator that Banville is present in his body. Now, the reason why Belvy has these rainbow eyes here and everything, it's mostly due to the fact that the filter effect that I was trying to find for Belvy wasn't really matching up with my idea, and I just thought, hey, rainbow eyes would probably be a lot cooler and stuff and everything, but yeah. How far back in the lore are you planning on going with the Fighter Saga? Because you started with a certain adventurers party and have gone back to those adventuring grandparents. In theory, you could potentially keep going all the way back to the very first adventurers party in their respective nations, but that could also branch backwards into a whole tangled mess of family trees. Yes, it very much can. The further you go back in the lore when it comes to any story in general, the easier it is to get yourself tangled when it comes to, like, trying to make sure all those past events connect to the current events of your story. It's a very challenging thing to do when it comes to being a writer, and I really don't want to get over detailed or over complicate in layers to try to like make it make sense and everything. But as I'm doing more and more world building writing in my spare time when it comes to the Fighter Saga world for my own sanity, there is a lot of stories and ideas that I do want to do for this series and everything when it comes to the previous lore of the current time and everything. So if I was to go and tell those stories and everything, I want to do it kind of like a sort sort of like legend telling and everything via a campfire style scenario, you know? Here's a question that pertains to the Fighter Saga as well as you directly. Where did the creation of Kala come from? How did you come up with her? Will we get more depth with Kala? Moreover, how did you get comfortable with the overexpressing yourself when DMing? I've been kind of struggling doing voices for the NPCs. Oh boy, man, I do love Kala. Okay. Let me give you the rundown about Kala. So Kala is a member from the Pack the Father crew, and I absolutely love writing for her and also acting her out. She is one of my favorite characters, honestly. I always like characters who are con artists, but also have their own morals. Kala is a con artist, and she will absolutely let everybody know. I've always been a big fan when it comes to con artist characters. I love watching cons movies. I love watching heist movies with all these group of con artists, like planning things out and doing these impossible heists with their words, their wits, their charisma, all that riz and everything. And I really wanted to see what I could do when it comes to a con artist with those things. And coming up with Kala when it came to like designing a con artist for the characters and everything, I didn't want her to be a typical con artist and everything. I wanted her to be something a little bit more different, a little bit of a person who has talents in everything else and everything when it comes to like casting spells or like doing other things. For writing characters and everything, I like to take the certain build or tropes that usually associated with a typical character that might be aligned with certain qualities and always kind of like go askew and then kind of like build on the new road off the off-beaten path and everything. Does that make sense? When I decided that I wanted to write a con artist character for the party for Pact the Father, I wanted to see, okay, what would there be their certain laws, ethics, and codes that they live by when it comes to being a con artist. Kala will lie, cheat, and steal for that money, but she's lived by that ethics of code that her father taught her when living in the Golden Road, which is a town full of artists, merchants, and other places for businesses that is a pretty good ground for any con artist to try and get. When it came to Kala, I didn't want to write a con artist with a heart of gold, because Kala doesn't really have a heart of gold. It's very tarnished, dirty, a little bit bent up and everything due to her life and her mom kind of being a little bit of a helicopter parent and pushing her towards doing a type of magic that she never really wanted to do and everything, because her mom wanted her to be a necromancer, well, a wizard in the necromancy school, while Kala's magic was very much geared toward, druid and everything, because that's her class. Kala will lie, cheat, steal, and slap you to get all the money that she can to stuff it in her bed so she's sleeping on a literal pile of platinum and gold. But she has her lines that she will never cross. And they're not really morals when it comes to Kala, it's basically common sense. Her typical targets are people who misuse the system. Kala knows that the world sucks when it comes to certain things, especially with money. So in her eyes, if you have a large sum of money that you are just using for yourself and not helping out others, you're basically free game. And also, if you prey upon people who do not have a lot of money and you are swindling them for that money with some snake oil remedy or some trick, she will absolutely go scorch earth on your ass, because she has seen it happen real life in front of other people that she knew and does not stand for it. And yes, I will absolutely get more in depth when it comes to Kala. I absolutely love her. She's one of the most complex characters when it comes to the Pact the Father or Fighter Saga universe. She does have the attitude of a boss-ass queen, but there is a lot more behind that mask. Now, when it comes to expressing yourself when DMing and everything, I very much treat it kind of like clown work when it comes to like DMing. Spoiler and shocker work, I was going to college for theater. Never got that degree because of my stupid brain and my mental health going down the crapper, so whee! I am a very expressive person when it comes to my DMing style. This is how I go with my acting. I'm very much of a physical comedy person because I've watched a lot of slapstick comedy growing up from like the old black and white films and everything. and to like modern day and stuff. So I really kind of adapted that style when it comes to that thing. But that's not always the case when it comes to people with expressions and stuff in D&D. And to answer your question about overexpressing yourself while DMing and everything, it's very much the case of just getting used and letting yourself be free when it comes to expressing your voices. Now, when it comes to being comfortable with overexpressing yourself as a DM and everything, one of the things that I like to do is just having like a little bit of a monologue as a character, an NPC, or the BBEG for your campaign and stuff. It doesn't need to be like a long 10-minute monologue or everything. It can just be like a 30-second or 15-second thing that you can just say out loud by yourself or in a mirror, just kind of like get an idea of how your face looks like when you're expressing these things. If you need ideas to come up to what to say as your character to practice their voice and everything to get comfortable with it, you can look at those personality questions that are all over the internet. You can just have your character answer one of those questions within like 30 seconds of those and just sort of like keep practicing it. It is a muscle that you're gonna have to learn over time to develop and get stronger. Doing voices for NPCs is a very hard thing to do because not all of us are the glorious Matthew Mercer. I also struggle when it comes to doing voices for NPCs and everything because I do want to make my characters distinct from the other and everything, but trying to maintain that voice I had to that character will always slip into something else, and it's just kind of like a wishy-washy sort of thing, you know? So something that's always helped me out when it comes to that is focusing on your tone and how you are talking as that character. Everybody has a certain tone or the way they talk, their rhythm, the way they enunciate things, the way they pronounce stuff, how they talk within sentences, or how they go fast really times, or they start going really, really slow and other points and everything. It's very much finding that makeup and rhythm when it comes to voices that really do sets them apart and unique. I have done this a lot when it comes to my games in D&D, and my players will attest that they will know when a character is speaking when I have not said the name of that said character when they are walking into the room just by the way that I talk. So I hope that helps for you, buddy. Pack of the Father seems to be going forward in the time opposite to the saga. You allude to both stories being connected to each other. When do we get to see them merge or interact with each other? Or are the fathers more in the present-day timeline and the Fighter Saga is the backstory lore to make everything make sense? So, the Pack of the Father crew is set after a few years when Orlean marries Darcy. Orlean's party is pretty much the well-known heroes when it comes to Odalise, and the Pack of the Father crew is a party, but they're kind of like not in the highest tier when it comes to like adventuring parties in Odalise. If we're gonna say like Orlean's crew is like at the almost the high top of adventuring crew. Pack of the Father crew is sort of like yeah, about there. They're more of a street level like superhero and everything, like Spider-Man and everything. Because, you know, like in any other D&D adventuring world and everything, there's not just going to be one singular party that's going around the country that they're in and everything. There's going to be multiple party groups, and Pack of the Father crew is one of those like lower tier parties that are doing their thing and just trying to make it day by day, you know? And we've already had Fighter Saga characters interact with Pack of the Father crew, like with Orlean interacting with Nox in one of his arcs. There probably will be more appearances or cameos when it comes to the Fighter Saga crew in the Pack of the Father series and everything, but I don't really know right now. It all depends on if it makes sense in the story, you know? Hello, I have a question. Do you want a sandwich? And another, what's your writing process? Well, first off, yes, I would love a sandwich, but it has to be gluten-free. Otherwise, if I eat anything that has gluten in it, my stomach will kill me, and I'm gonna be out of commission for a little bit, so. The writing process when it comes to Fighter Saga is that I break things down from the ideas that get popped up in my head into arcs. I get a lot of ideas boiling up in this head here, so I basically dump them all out on a Google sheet and everything, write them all out, kind of like sift through everything, carve up all the ideas and everything, store them up in a very, try my best, a organized place and everything, and break them down into arcs. I generally focus on ideas and events built around the characters for the Fighter Saga and want to see how they will react or do when it comes to certain things. Typically, I will start with a starting point of how the arc starts and an ending point when it ends and everything. And I don't usually plan anything in like in the middle and everything, because that usually get changes and stuff. And trying to figure out like, okay, what can I do with those things is very much based on like listening and exploring different musics that kind of like fit within the somewhat raw idea that I have, and those give more inspiration and shape of how it can goes, and like listening to the tone and like the music and the energy towards it. It just kind of like also influences on how it goes. But I do make sure the path to the point A to point B and everything is solid and not like breaking anything or going absolutely completely bonkers, you know? It's sort of like making a very, very rough first draft, and then over time you kind of like chip away at it, give it more structure, give it more detail, give it that volume, that finesse and everything, and then voila, there you go. More, please? I need more funny from the Children of the Rainbow, and more lore of the saga. Fighting, romance, loss, comic relief, the Rainbow Children. This is my version of the soap opera that I'm quite happily addicted to. Oh, there will be more. I can promise you that, homie. I love this series so much, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed as well. It really does mean a lot and everything. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video here. I really did have a lot of fun talking about it and kind of like dissecting everything and all that. And if you guys want to see more of these videos where I answer questions you guys give about like the Fighter Saga, writing, or like DMing questions in general and everything, then please hit me up in the comments below, and hell, maybe I'll make another video about this. Remember to like the video, subscribe, ring the bell if you're not notified of any of the new videos I'll be coming out here, because there will always be new videos coming out here, homie. What the heck? And if you want to help me out even further and everything, then please check out my Ko-fi and all that stuff. And yeah, y'all have a fantastic out day, be safe out there, and remember, be kind to yourselves. Peace.